Hello and welcome. So I should introduce you. This
Please.
is Scott Tejerian. We have been friends now for over a decade, which seems crazy because it seems just like yesterday. I want to gear this for a lot of my friends that might just have a remote kind of interest in astrology, but this is definitely what you do and what you talk about in your weekly email that comes out, which I want to talk about because,
Yes.
as I said before, I literally wait with bated breath to get this email, and I'm just like, yay, here it comes. I'm going to have a little insight into my week. And it is not the hokey kind of horoscopes that you might read in like a People magazine that are like, you should kiss an Aries. This is not what we're talking about.
When I first heard about astrology, I didn't give it too much credence because I didn't really think that I felt like, well, wait, there's 12 types of people in the world. You want to break it down like that? 12 types of people? It just seems so vague and so general that it could kind of apply to anyone. Once you start to realize how much all the other planets besides the sun play into your astrological code, your design, that's when it really starts to floor you. You need the date, time, and place of your birth. And the reason is because right now we are spinning on the Earth's axis at 1,000 miles an hour. Like what I tell everyone is the more accurate the time, the more accurate the reading. Because when you pop out of the womb and you are 6 pounds over 70% water, the planetary force that moves the oceans is making an imprint upon you. We know that the sun and the moon move the oceans. The oceans weigh 1.5 quadrillion short tons. Each short ton is 2,000 pounds. If the sun and the moon can do that to the ocean, what are they doing to little Jen when she's 6 pounds, 70% water and pops out onto this earth that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and flying through space at 67,000 miles an hour? It's like being born on a speeding train. It's like,
Right?
boom, it just, yeah. And the pressure of that shapes you from body to soul. And the next time the planets and stars will be aligned in the way that they were aligned when you were born is 25,000 years from that date, time, and place.
Wow.
So
That's
you truly
phenomenal.
are one of a kind. It was really around 2016 that I really started to, it became like my obsession. I've sent out a weekly email called the Weekly Transit that looks at where the planets are for the week. Each day I highlight a couple planetary alignments or positions, and I explain how this planetary alignment and positioning is influencing life on Earth. And you brought up earlier about how astrology has a lot to do with what's going on right now. Well, it always does. The planets are always shifting everything that goes on the earth, but more specifically now is because four planets are clustered together at the same spot in the sky. They've kind of moved apart a little bit as things, and you've felt how things have sort of dissipated the chaos. But back when everybody, the first couple, like the second week of March, when everybody was rushing out to buy every single roll of toilet paper they could find, that's when Mars, the god of war, the planet of action and aggression, Saturn, the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction and authority, Jupiter, the god of thunder, the planet of justice and expansion, and Pluto, the god of death, the planet of transformation, lord of the underworld. All four of those planets were together, clustered in the same spot in the sky in Capricorn, which is the sign that represents authority, achievement, ambition. So that is an earth sign as well. So you have the god of war, the god of wealth and time, the god of thunder, and the god of death all together in the sign that symbolizes government and authority and all practical reality. There is a massive shift in our reality. When I was just talking about those four planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, those four haven't been in Capricorn together for thousands of years. You know, when you're talking about your astrological code is only reset every 25,000 years. Even for four planets to be in the same place like that is so rare. You have two planets, Jupiter and Pluto, which the last time they were together in Capricorn was 1771.
Wow.
So,
We're truly witnessing some, whether it's good or bad, absolutely magnificent.
and you bring up good or bad, all of that depends on you, the individual, and how you're working with the energy at hand. None of it is meant to be good or bad. It's energy that uh, can be either or depending on who you are and how you're working with the energy. So
Right.
one of the phrases I like to use in the weekly transit is you want to be riding the planetary waves instead of the planetary waves riding you. When you're flowing down the river, you want to know when the rock's up ahead so that you can go around it.
Remember you had told me last year, uh, right when I was about to make a big change, career change kind of for myself. And I had gone ahead and made the change and was just like, oh my, I hope this works out. And I happened to see you and you're like, well, it's definitely going to be tough until December. And then things are going to lift and move forward a little bit, but then they're going to have a little bit of a problem in March. And I just remember like kind of trying to toss that in the back of my head, even though I was just like, oh my God, December, I got to wait till December.
Uh-huh.
And I tell you, sure enough, in my particular scenario, that is exactly how things kind of did move.
When I told you what I told you back in 2019, it wasn't to make you afraid or discourage you. It's to let you know so that you can be prepared. Just like the weather person says it's going to snow today, you don't want to, walk outside in shorts and sandals because it will be extremely uncomfortable. It might still be uncomfortable if you're in the right clothes, but at least you're in the right clothes and you brought an umbrella if it's raining or whatever it may be.
Perfect analogy. Perfect analogy.
I think a lot of people our age, we woke up in this world and realized that, oh, wait, so everything that we've been told isn't necessarily reality. Or, we thought that we as the human race knew everything there was to know, but now we're realizing maybe we have some more to learn. So, first of all, astrology is an ancient language. It's not a religious belief. It's believing in astrology is like believing the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Whether you believe that or not, it
It's
does.
happening. Right.
It's happening. So either you are aware and you choose to be aware, or you're not. The whole purpose of doing a reading is to understand your astrological code so that you can truly come to understand yourself. Once you understand yourself, then you can begin to accept yourself. Once you are accepting yourself, then you can truly appreciate who you are. You can appreciate your gifts. You can begin to work consciously on your challenges. And once you're approaching life from that way, then you can truly find you truly are accomplishing the one job that you have in this world, and that is to love yourself. So you're learning to love yourself. So often we look outside of ourselves for answers as to, oh, look at this person, they seem like they have it all figured out, and I'm going to try to do life like them. And you're just going to end up disappointing yourself because they are following a different astrological code than the code that you have. So just because it works for person X doesn't mean it works for you. The other reason to do readings is I did a reading the other day for a mother and a son, and the son said that in 1 hour 30 years of resentment went out the window because I was able to show them how their astrological codes work, and more importantly, how those two codes work together. And through understanding that, they began to realize that, oh, so this person hasn't just been trying to, mess with me for the last 30 years. They've really just been trying to do the best that they can, but we just don't see things eye to eye, in certain areas, and we're never going to see things eye to eye in certain areas. And
Right.
what that means is you have to be conscious about the expectations you have for the other person, and you work through that relationship from a place of understanding and patience, as opposed to they're always trying to mess with me and they always do this and that, and then it just creates this giant friction. There's always going to be some challenges there, but at least if you are operating from a higher realm of consciousness and understanding this person's astrological code in relation to your astrological code, then from there you're at least working with each other in a harmonious way, even if it's challenging.
You are always looking at what's going on. You're always doing it for the weekly transit to see where the planets are and suss that out. Can you give a very, dare I say, quick earmark of points of what's kind of gone on just in that last quarter of last
Yeah,
year into this year, and maybe what's to come for the
totally.
year, as far as just, quick bullet points of,
Totally. Yeah.
hey,
Well,
this
I
is
mean,
pretty much the shit show that occurred.
yeah, first of all, like, if you, as you were uh, subscribing to the weekly transit, I was telling everyone in the weekly transit and people in my personal life that the first 3 months of 2020 were going to be a bumpy ride.
Right.
Uh,
I remember
and
I kept seeing that and I kept thinking, oh my, well, and for me personally, it was finally starting to lift and ease
mhm,
right before this all happened. And I was thinking, well, I wonder when this bumpy ride thing is going to occur. And
yeah,
whoa!
yes. Because I saw those planets clustering in Capricorn and I knew that something massive was going to be moving.
Yeah.
So, looking forward, some quick bullet points. Those two planets, Jupiter and Pluto, the god of thunder and the god of death, they have been joined at the hip more or less since the beginning of March. They're kind of separating now, but they're going to come back together the last week of June. The
Okay.
last week of June, I'm expecting some major uncomfortable movement again. And then they're going to come back together again in a big way the first week of November. So I'm energetically bracing myself for the last week of June and the first week of November. I'm also looking at Venus, which is the planet of love and relationships, the goddess of beauty, Lady Luck. Right now, Venus is slowing down, moving into its shadow, or it's in its shadow, slowing down, and it's going to begin retrograding on May 12th. It continues retrograding, meaning going backwards in the sky until June 24th. And then it doesn't pull out of its shadow until July 28th. So Venus is as the planet of relationships. When it starts to move backwards, it's going to bring back lovers or old friends from the past, basically, whether it's in reality or in your dreams that are
Mhm.
very vivid, to sort of write the balance, write the ledger sheet. So just be mindful of any past lovers or close friends that come back into your view between right now and the end of July.
Funny that you
Uh,
say that. I feel like every female friend that I have talked to has said since this COVID thing has happened that every
all
every ex
the
has come
X's.
out of the woodwork.
Yes. It's also important to remember, and this kind of goes along with the COVID stuff too, is Venus is in Gemini, and Gemini is a naturally curious sign. It's the twins. You got two of them. So one's looking over here, the other one's looking over there. And what that causes is if you're in a committed relationship, there might be some confusion. There might be an urge to kind of glance to your left or to your right to see what else might be out there of interest. So if you're in a committed relationship and things get confusing or uncomfortable, just keep it light during this period. Don't, if you want to stay with this person right now, then stick with them through the end of July. And if you feel by August that you don't want to be with that person, then by then you'll really know. But there could be some feelings that come up during May, June, and July where you're feeling the urge to bolt
Okay.
and go with somebody new. If you are not in a committed relationship and you're single, this is a good time to just keep it light and date and see what's out there. Don't get serious about anyone. If somebody's still lingering around in August and it feels like it might be a match, then you'll know then. Also, because Mercury on from June 1st until July 26th, Mercury is in its retrograde shadow period. So again, the conscious mind and communication, there's going to be a lot of confusion there. It's going to be difficult to communicate. There's going to be a lot of miscommunication. So be very patient. Just understand that if the message isn't getting across, or you're not receiving the message in the way that you want to, that you might just be missing it in some way, and there's no reason to overreact. This is a human experience. This is it's a chance for you to experience life on earth. Try not to, this is one of those moments where people say don't take it too seriously. This is definitely a period not to take it too seriously between
Okay.
the beginning of May all the way through the end of July. Don't take anything too seriously. Don't overreact. It's going to be hard. I'm telling you this right now. You're still going to want to overreact, I guarantee it. But just try to remember this and be calm.
Whether you're waiting for that unemployment check to come in, or whether you're waiting for work to come in, whether you're waiting for your spouse to walk out the door and give you a breath.
Yes.
I'm sure it's a
Yes.
lot of things for everybody.
And really, it's important. This period we're shifting into a new paradigm. Everybody needs to be asking themselves a few questions. Number one, what is it that you truly value in the material world? What is it that you truly value in the material world? Number
Give me
two,
a couple of when you're asking that, what are we talking about? Are we talking?
I'm talking about, okay, we love being, I'm spiritual and I'm an enlightened being and all this stuff. But the reality is, you are, this is the physical manifestation of your soul. You
Right.
are a spiritual being, but your spiritual being is now housed in this body,
Yep.
in this world,
It
and
needs
you need
material things.
food to eat, you need a roof over your head, whatever material things that you need to feel secure. What are those things?
And there's
What?
no right or wrong to that, correct?
No, it's not like a judgment of like, oh, you're being too materialistic. No, everybody needs material items to feel secure, but what are those items to you, and why are those items essential to you? The last time that Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, the planet of revolution and rebellion, is where it is right now, was the Great Depression, and the time before that was the gold rush. Those were both desperate times in human history that forced people to really define what it is they needed in the material world. So that's why I asked that question.
Wow, amazing.
Number two is, where have you been wounded in your self confidence? Everybody right now is dealing with a wound to their self confidence. So you need to find healing to your self confidence right now during this period, as Chiron, the wounded healer, is in Aries for the first time since the Vietnam War, since Martin Luther King was assassinated, the Nixon impeachment. It was a very chaotic time in this country, but also across the world. So we're back there now again, and everybody is being asked, what is the wound to your self-confidence, and what do you need to do to heal that wound? And to heal the wound, it's by forgiving yourself from the past, forgiving the people that perpetrated the wound in the past, because they were just filling their karmic role in the story of your life. The third question is more of a statement: sober up. To sober up, recognize what's going on in reality, and truly open our hearts to become compassionate towards our fellow humans.
Okay.
The fourth piece is Pluto, which is the god of death, which I mentioned. The United States is is nearing its Pluto return, where Pluto is going to return to the same spot that it was in when the Declaration of Independence was signed, July 4th, 1776.
Okay.
Pluto will be at the exact same point that it was on July 4th, 1776, for the first time since then, on July 4th, 2022. So we are literally going through a death and rebirth of the authority
Wow. That's
on this planet. This
huge.
is when people decided to stop bending a knee to another human and saying, you know, your highness or whatever.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in terms of your own personal authority? What
Right.
are you doing to achieve personal authority? We are so often looking to billionaires or politicians or celebrities to tell us how to live, how to be. They have no more knowledge than you or I do. So nobody has more knowledge about you and your personal code than you. So stop looking to these other entities to bring you happiness, to bring you security, and to guide you in your life, when really it's you
I
that
love
are meant
that.
to guide
I
yourself
love
in
that.
this life. You're giving up your power, you're giving up your authority by asking these authorities to tell you how to live. They don't know, but they might tell you because they're trying to push you into a direction that suits them.
Such amazing info.
Well,
It really,
thank
and
you.
it's crazy that crazy cool that it's all tied to how the planets are moving.
Yes.
Before we finish this call, I definitely want to let everybody know how obviously the weekly transit is something that they can find on Instagram, right? It's under.
Well, yeah, I'm on, it's at the Weekly Transit on Instagram. You can subscribe. So I post daily on Instagram,
Okay.
but you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter and you'll get the whole week leading up to the week.
And if
You
someone
can
do
go
that on
subscribe.
Instagram, can they subscribe?
You can subscribe via Instagram, like in the bio,
Perfect.
but also you can go to theweeklytransit.com and subscribe there. I also have a podcast, The Weekly Transit, which highlights everything that's going on in the email as well.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. And on that website, that's the theweeklytransit.com, that is where someone can also sign up to do readings with you, get more in
Yes.
depth on things.
Yes.
I've definitely done those a couple times. I know I had asked you last time we spoke, I've certainly done a reading with you. I thought it was just mind blowing. But I remember saying, like, what's the benefit of doing one, more than one? Because I feel like
Right.
I got a lot of information that time when I did it, and then as time goes on, do you really need more information than you've gotten from that initial chart reading? What's the benefit of doing more than one reading?
Well, yes, you get benefits from doing multiple readings. Number one, it's so much information to learn in one reading that it's going to melt your brain.
Right.
And that's
Remember
just in
that.
regards to your own personal code. But also, it's important to check back if you're interested in how the planets are affecting you specifically at any point in time. So if
That
you're
makes
looking,
more
you
sense.
know, what's going on in the next month, in the next 6 months, in the next year, when's a good time to put myself out there and find a partner? When's a good time for me to focus on my career? Whatever it might be, there's always a time of year where
Love
you should be focusing your energies. And that's when I talk about riding the planetary waves, because you want to know when the planets are actually supporting you
Right.
to be doing what it is you want to be doing. You're not always supposed to be focusing on your career or your love life or whatever, but there's certain times of the year or the season where you want to be focusing most of your energy in those areas. And then when you
Love
do,
it.
you'll see the return that you are desiring to receive. The other reason is to come back with a lover, a friend, a family member, and see how you relate to that person, especially if you're dealing with some conflicts in those areas where it's like we don't seem to be seeing eye to eye. Why? Like I pointed out, that reading that I did recently with the mother and the son,
Yeah.
where they were able to understand each other in a better way so that they can have a more healthy relationship with one another.
And certainly someone would definitely need to have their date of birth, their
Then,
time of birth, and their place of birth when they come into a reading, regardless of, and both people, if there was multiple people coming into this reading to do a reading, if it was a couple coming in, they both need to have that detailed information.
date, time, and place of birth. But, some people, they're like, I don't have the time. My mom said I was born between noon and 1 o'clock. That's fine. We'll find the time. If you give me a window, we will find the time. I do that all the time with
I've heard, yes,
clients.
I know a mutual friend of ours you've done that with, and it was pretty amazing that
Mm,
you were able to narrow it down exactly almost to her exact time of birth. I found that just phenomenal. You can certainly subscribe and see what's going on with the weekly transit, but as you're saying, if you have a chart reading done, you see how it's pertaining to you. You know, um,
yes, it's
dare
more.
I even say, I hate to use the word shortcut, but it's almost a shortcut of logic to go, okay, right, this is the time that I should be applying for the job, or and forgetting
Yes,
about trying to get into a relationship. Oh, this is a time. So it almost saves you time if you know a little bit more about
yes,
astrology, right?
yes.
Love
It's
it. Well, it has been poof magic talking to you. It's always magic talking to you. So thank you for sharing all this information with everybody. It's phenomenal. And they can find you at weeklytransit.com, Instagram handle at the Weekly Transit. And yeah, thank you, Scott.
yes.
You're amazing.
Thank you, Jen. Great to be here. Love